Hi, I'm April from So Local. Today we're making these stuffy little balloon animals, and it's from the DIY Selfie blog. Thanks for joining me. So for our amazing little stuffed balloon animals, we're going to be using, we have everything in our kits to make two. So we have 2 threads, 2 bags of stuffing, 2 stretchy jersey fabrics that are cotton jersey blend in 2 bright colors. And then some good tools to have are a ruler, a skewer or something to poke with, some kind of sewing marking tool or a pencil, and sewing scissors. So we have our full width of fabric here. You can see the selvage right here on the end, and we only need it to be 6 inches wide this way. So the first thing we're going to do is, it's already folded in half. I'm going to fold it again one more time, like this. And that's because I want my ruler to be long as the fabric so that I can mark the whole thing. So the first thing I'm going to do is try and get a nice straight edge across the bottom. And to do that, I have this mat here. You could line this up with any straight edge. So I'm going to line this one up so it's straight on the side right here. And then lay my ruler all the way across. And it is really helpful to have a mat like this because I'm following my ruler on this same line, so I know that it's straight. So the line is really faint. I can see it. I don't know if it's showing up well on the camera, but I'm going to go ahead and cut straight across this line that I just drew. Now when I'm measuring our 6 inches up, I know that it's going to be straight. So I'm going to use a ruler here. Each one of these squares on my ruler is 1 inch. So I'm going to go to 6 and just mark across. And then I'll do the same thing on the other end. And then I'll lay my ruler over the top so we can match it up with both sides. And then the same thing, I'm going to use a marking pen right along this line. Okay, so I have it 6 inches wide now. If this is not a perfect straight line, don't worry about it. When we sew it and it's a stretch fabric, it's not going to show a lot. It's not a big deal, but you want it relatively straight and about 6 inches on each end and across the middle. So one thing you can do if you feel like it's a little bit wonky is you can go ahead and check and see if it's around 6 inches the whole way. And if there's any points where you feel like it's too long, you can mark them and then just go ahead and draw a new line on the bottom and cut that part off. So I want this to be 36 inches long. So we're going to go ahead and double the fabric and have it 18 inches. So when we unfold it, we'll have 36. But first, so that I don't waste fabric, I'm going to fold it like this, and then I can double check that it's around 18. So my ruler goes exactly to 18, so that's handy. So I'm just folding it like this, and I'm going to measure 18 across. And I'm just cutting in a little bit so that I'm not including the selvage with the little holes in it there. Okay, so when I open this up, I have one piece that's now 6 inches by 36. All right, so we have our piece, and knit fabrics have a good side and an inside. It doesn't matter that much. It's actually quite hard to tell sometimes, but here we can see this is the wrong side of the fabric. If I flip it over, I can see this is the right side. You can kind of see how it's if you knew how to knit, you could see the little knit stitches in there. You can almost see lines running through it when you stretch it. That's the good side. If you make your stuffed animal inside out, probably nobody will be able to tell. Okay, so we're gonna put our piece, and we're just lining it up so that the right sides of the fabric are together, and we're going to be pinning it across this long edge. So you'll notice that stretchy fabric is a little bit trickier to work with. The edges want to curl a lot. So this one is all curled in. So I'm just going a couple of inches at a time and getting those to line up, pinning it and not worrying about the rest for now. If your fabric is being completely unruly, you can iron it with some steam. And you don't want to move it around like ironing, more like pressing it. Just hold your iron down, steam it, pick it up and move it over. And that can help too. So I'm making my ends match up and I have a little bit of a gap here. So I'm actually just gonna spread this out a little bit by removing a few of the pins, just making sure it's laying flat and that the edge is still lining up. There we go. I'm just gonna show you on a scrap first. When you're sewing with knits, you should use a stretch stitch. If you use a straight stitch instead, stitches can break. So this is a straight stitch on stretch fabric. If you pull on your fabric, which we will be when we're trying to stuff it, then when you pull, the threads will break and then you'll get holes in your seams. And they break quite easily. So that's why we're going to use a stretch stitch instead. So on your machine, every machine's a bit different. On this one right here, number 5 is the stitch I'm going to use. It's called a lightning stitch, and it allows your fabric to be stretched without breaking it. If you don't have a lightning stitch, look for the SS on your sewing machine. SS is what stands for the stretch stitch. If you can't find that, you can always use a zigzag stitch if you don't have a stretch stitch. So now we're going to be sewing this so we have a long tube. The two ends are going to stay open. We're just sewing around down the long seam. And I'm just going to change this to the stretch stitch now. And you can grab your threads, pull them towards the back. You can hang on to them when you start sewing this. I'm just going to start in a little bit and then back stitch. And when you're sewing your stretch fabric, you don't want to stretch it too much. Just kind of let it be pulled through the machine mostly. And like I said at the beginning, you can grab these threads to help pull it. So now you'll see, since I used a stretch stitch, I can stretch my fabric and the stitches are not going to break on me. So we're going to turn this whole tube so that it's right side out. Right? Now we're going to start stitching our tube so that we're hand stitching a part, stuffing a part, and then hand stitching another part, and I'll give you all the measurements for those. So the first piece is just going to be about 1 inch down from the top, and we're going to be hand stitching this shut, and this is sort of like the end of the balloon. So you can grab your hand sewing needle and your thread from your sewing machine. I want the color to match your fabric. We're going to thread our needle. So we want our thread to be about as long as holding it to our elbow. And it's doubled. So I'm going about 1 inch down from the top, and I'm going to just make a quick running stitch. So I'm going in and out all the way across like this. And then I'm going to take both ends and tie them together like this. And I'm going to do a double knot here. Now, because we want this to be really strong, I'm going to actually wrap this around like that, come back to the front, and I can just cut my needle right off. I'm going to do another double knot like this and make sure to pull really tight here. I'm going to triple knot this just in case. Okay, so this one is nice and tight and it's tied up well. I have a needle threaded again and it's ready for the next stitches. I'm not bothering with putting a knot in the end because we don't really need it. So our next step is to put about 3 inches worth of stuffing in here. And to do that, it's hard to get all the way down to the end, so I am going to kind of fold this up some before I do that. Okay, so I'm just gonna leave it like this for a minute, open up my stuffing, and take it all out so I can kind of gauge how much we have here. And I do have a poking stick that's gonna help out when I need it. So I'm gonna take a little bit of stuffing at a time and shove it right through that tunnel. And then you can use your pokey stick to help push it to the end. So the beginning is going to be the hardest to get the stuffing all the way down. So it's just starting, but we want it to be pretty full and we want it to be about 3 inches, which we'll double check on in a few minutes. So I think I have this part stuffed enough, but I'm going to double check on 3 inches on my mat. So each one of these squares is 1 inch. So this puts me at 3 right here, which is perfect. So it looks like this. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the stitches. I'm going to do a running stitch going across at 3 inches, which is right here. And then I'm going to make sure all this stuffing is before that line. Just quickly go across like this. And then I'm making these so they're about even and doing a double knot here. So first one, make it nice and tight. And then after you have your double knot, you're going to bring your threads all the way around so they come back to this side. You can cut your needle off. And then you're going to do another double or triple knot. And make sure that you're pulling it really tight right over the top of your last threads. Okay, then you can cut off your extra thread. So this is the head. Now we're going to do the ears, which are in two 2-inch pieces. So we're going to stuff 2 inches, do our sewing through, pull it tight, knot it, and then do one more that's 2 inches again. Okay, so we have our head and our 2 ears, and we're going to bring the 2 ears together to the top of the head like this, and we're going to sew that together now. So I'm going to go through from underneath here, sew that my stitches, so that I still have some extra thread hanging here. And then I'm going to do like we did earlier. And before I tie this, I want to make sure that these two are being joined. So give your threads a nice pull to bring these together. Just like this. And now I'm going to remove my needle, wrap these around and tie them again. And do a triple knot. When you flip it over, you have your ears and your head. Okay, so we have the head, and now I've stuffed one 3.5 inch section, and I'm going to sew this shut like we did on the other pieces, and then we're going to make 2 more 3.5 inch pieces. So you'll have 3 3.5 inch little sausages here linked together. Okay, so we have our 3 sausages. So this one's the neck and these 2 are the front legs. So these 2 have to be sewn together like this, just like we did on the ears. And then the rest of this is going to be the body, the back legs, and the tail. So I have my thread running through these 2 sausages, the second and third, and then I'm going to pull them together, make a double knot. Okay, so we have our neck, our 2 front legs, ears, head. So we have to do the body and the 2 back legs and the tail, and they're each going to be 3 inches long. So we're doing 4 3-inch sections now, and I'm just checking to see how much I have left on here, and I have just over 12 inches, which is exactly what I want. So I'll be able to do all of those and then have a little bit left to be the end of the balloon. So go ahead and stuff your 3-inch sections. You'll need 4 of those. So we've got our 3 pieces here. This is our body and our 2 back legs, and this is all I have left for the tail. So the tail will be whatever you end up with at the end. It's supposed to be 3 inches, which I do have 3 inches left, but there it's not going to be a lot left for stuffing it, but because it's stretchy fabric, it's going to be fine. Body, leg, leg, tail. We're gonna take the 2 leg sections and just bring them together, and then the tail can pop up. So we have our puppy like this. So we're just sewing these 2 legs so that they stay together and the tail sticks straight up. Okay, so we have our puppy all together. The last step is to make it a little more structurally sound. So right now you can kind of stand up, it's actually not too bad, but I went ahead on the tail and on the ears and I did a ladder stitch all the way around, and that just kind of keeps the joints a little bit tighter and together. I didn't do it on this one yet, and you can see it's a lot looser than on here. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So the ladder stitch is going to go like this. So we're going to go, this is our main circle, we're going to go all the way around this circle. So I'm going to start here, and you do want to make sure that you have a double knot on the end of your thread. Do that first. I'm just making a stitch right across, and then I'm going to grab the fabric that is straight across from here. And then I'm going to go back on this side, make a stitch straight across, and then I'm going to grab the fabric straight across from here, which is in the neck instead of the leg, and then I'm going to do that here, and straight across. So you can see this is why it's called the ladder stitch. It makes these straight stitches, and then every few stitches I'm going to give this a tug. And it's going to bring everything nice and tight together. And then we're going to keep doing that until we get all the way around this body. So I'm back on this side. We'll flip it over here. And you want to go low enough so it's going to hide all of your knots and from earlier on. Then we're almost done. Okay, so we've come all the way around. I'm just going to give it a nice tug. And then to knot it, I'm going to go through both sides of the fabric here. And then as I'm pulling tight, instead of pulling all the way, I'm going to put my needle through the loop and then pull tight. And I'm going to do that another 2 times in the same spot so that I know that it's nice and secure. There we go. Let's see if it'll stand up.